Emily, a former acquaintance of my husband, she suddenly came to find him. She begged him to help find a suitable kidney donor for her. However, he pushed her away without hesitation. You left me when I went bankrupt. How can you still have the face to come to me for help now? The next day, I got into a car accident. I was in a coma for 3 whole days and nights. I slowly woke up. I heard my husband talking to the doctor. The doctor said, "Your wife is now pregnant. After the kidney removal, she must rest well. Otherwise, both she and the baby will be in danger." Daniel suddenly became anxious. He must do everything to protect the baby in her womb. Emily cannot bear children. I was counting on this child to make up for her regrets. I stood by him through his lows. We welcomed success, but he was shaken and rushed back because of the white moonlight who once abandoned him. Since that's the case, then I'll let go. Let him pursue what he wants. What I can give can also be taken back completely. Daniel hasn't finished speaking. The device above my head suddenly started beeping continuously. At the same time, my stomach hurt badly. The doctor took a deep breath. Pregnant women are not suitable for kidney transplants. What you are doing could very likely harm the fetus. Daniel's voice was tense and slightly trembling. We must save this child at all costs. I promised Emily that I would hand the child over to her. Otherwise, she has no child to rely on. How much coldness and gossip will she endure? Seeing my firm attitude, the doctor had no choice, reluctantly agreed. Now, we can only forcibly administer the special injection to protect the pregnancy. Although it can save the fetus, it will cause significant harm to the mother's body. I can't worry about that anymore. Daniel urged the doctor to prepare quickly, then call the lawyer. The car accident was arranged by me. I won't hold the perpetrator responsible. Let them go. Additionally, I will give them some money. I can never believe my husband, who once loved me dearly, actually planned a car accident himself, just to help Emily, to enable the woman who once heartlessly abandoned him. Every time she is mentioned, Daniel's eyes are filled with resentment, grinding his teeth. But it was precisely for that woman he despises. He actually went so far as to take my kidney. He even designed to frame my own flesh and blood. The footsteps are getting closer. Daniel carefully cradled my face. He gently kissed my sweat-drenched forehead. "Lily, don't blame me for being too heartless. I originally thought I really hated Emily, but seeing her cry so sadly, I couldn't help but want to help her." I tightly closed my eyes, listening to the heartfelt words I hadn't heard in 5 years. Back then, the Daniel family went bankrupt. I helped Daniel out. I paid off all his debts. I even disregarded my family's objections. I insisted on marrying him. At that time, I foolishly thought, as long as I put in so much effort, he would only have me in his heart. Unfortunately, I completely bet wrong. Thinking of this, the knife wound in my lower back began to throb painfully, like being pierced by countless arrows. Daniel immediately grabbed my hand. He asked with concern, "Lily, what happened?" "The doctor told me you were in a serious car accident. Your lower back was pierced. Your husband is here with you. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid." His first reaction was not to care about me, but to hurriedly cover up his own mistakes. Now, when the word husband is mentioned, it's truly ironic. I was just about to speak. Just then, the doctor brought the special injection to stabilize the pregnancy. Thinking about what I just heard, I gritted my teeth. I couldn't help but cry out in pain. My heart was in turmoil. "Daniel, please don't give me the injection. I'm already in so much pain." But Daniel told a lie. He secretly signaled the doctor. "My wife is in a lot of pain. Please give her a painkiller. Don't worry. Trust me. This is a painkiller." I instinctively curled up. My body was shaking uncontrollably. However, that frighteningly thick needle still pierced the wound. Just 1 second later, I was in so much pain that I completely lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, I found Daniel sitting by my bedside. He had already fallen asleep. Aside from the pain in my abdomen, my insides feel as if they are being bitten by ants. I picked up my phone with trembling hands. I called my dad in a hoarse voice. "I misjudged people in the past. I'm willing to divorce Daniel. After I leave, just cut off the financial support from Daniel's family. I will sever all ties with him from now on." After getting my dad's approval, I picked up the phone Daniel had placed on his chest. I had never seen this phone before. The wallpaper on the unlock screen is their engagement photo. They look very close. I tried using today's date as the password. It successfully unlocked. That day, they finally reunited. I opened the chat history. The screen was filled with mockery directed at me. "Emily, you should understand. I married Lily out of necessity. Now my company has weathered the storm. Can you come back to me? Every time I'm with her, I always turn off the lights. You're all I think about after it's over. I'll take 10 showers. I'm not dirty at all. I keep smiling. A stream of hot tears rolls down my face all these years. I was with him. I didn't expect he felt so unhappy inside. The screen is filled with words like disgusting and unbearable. He repeatedly hurt my sincere feelings. Emily rarely replies to him, but he still keeps trying to win her back. Humbly, but in our chat window, I'm always the only one talking endlessly. I open the photo album that also has a password, the person who always says he wishes Emily would disappear. Surprisingly, his album is filled with her photos. Even if the photos are so blurry that you can't recognize her, he still treasures them like treasures. Every time I pull him in for a photo, he always instinctively pulls away. He says, "We see each other every day. There's nothing worth taking a photo of, and it takes up phone space. We've been together for 5 years. I only took one wedding photo that I had to take. It turns out he really doesn't like me. But he has a love-hate relationship with Emily. The pain comes in waves. I can't tell if it's my wound that's opened up, or if it's my heart that's hurting. I endure the pain. I quickly took these pieces of evidence. I messaged the butler. I asked him to help me with the identity cancellation procedures, and arranged a fake death plan. Daniel was sleeping soundly beside me. He kept saying Emily's name in his sleep. I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. In the end, I just sat up all night. In the morning, I just woke up. I saw Daniel holding a bowl of lean meat porridge and handing it to me. I instinctively recoiled. He asked me, "What's wrong, Lily? Don't you love eating lean meat porridge the most?" I forced a smile and said, "Because I'm not hungry, actually. I dislike eating lean meat porridge the most. The one who truly loves it is Emily." Thinking about what happened last night, I'm not surprised at all. 5 years have passed. He still remembers his beloved's food preferences. Daniel listened. He gently brushed my nose. He said, "Let's eat again when we're hungry. No rush, by the way. I heard Dad is suddenly coming back from the headquarters. You know the reason I avoided his gaze," he said. "Maybe he just wants to come back and take a look. It's nothing serious." Daniel obviously breathed a sigh of relief. He knows my dad has always had a problem with him. He always wants us to get divorced. He even threatened to stop supporting the Daniel family group. Every time I argue with my dad, it's to protect Daniel's reputation, but he doesn't realize it. This time, something really is going to happen. Daniel was peeling an apple while casually bringing it up. "You still remember Emily, right? She was sick before. Wasn't she looking for my help? I'm not sure how she found a kidney source. Now she has recovered. Today happens to be the opening day of her new store. Let's go check it out together." I remembered seeing the store acquisition contract on his phone. Then I understood what was going on. "That's great. I'm glad to see you two back to normal. I'm really happy," Daniel said with a smile. "I knew it. Our Lily is the most sensible one. I'm a bit curious. When everything returns to how it was before, will he still be as happy as he is now?" When we arrived at the opening site, Emily was wearing a custom-made gown. She looked much more energetic than a few days ago. The mother-in-law who was previously unfriendly to me. Now she is tightly holding her hand, continuously calling her daughter-in-law. As soon as Emily saw me, she hurried over to greet me. Maybe Auntie was just momentarily excited. I accidentally called it wrong. Lily is the daughter-in-law of the Daniel family. Upon hearing this, the expression on my mother-in-law's face changed instantly. She showed obvious disdain towards me. How did she marry into our family? She knows best in her heart. Perhaps she set up a scheme to drive our family to bankruptcy, and then used money to force my son to marry her. If it weren't for Emily studying abroad back then, I wouldn't have to watch my son marry such a scheming woman. A bitter smile appeared on my lips. It turns out that from the very beginning, Daniel had already found an excuse for Emily's abrupt departure. It seems that he may not have truly hated her for a single day. I can't help but wonder whether my mother-in-law always thought I forced her son to marry me, was also instigated by Daniel behind the scenes. When I came back to my senses, Daniel had quietly walked over to my mother-in-law. He was chatting with her warmly, but the gentle gaze has never left Emily. For the past 5 years, the person I have been thinking about is right in front of me. How could I not be moved? Once everyone is seated, the waiter starts serving the dishes. Daniel looked around. Furrowing his brow, he called the chef over. He replaced the seafood winter mushroom soup with a nourishing soup. Because someone just had surgery, it's better to eat something light. Then, He ordered a dish of scallops, because someone at the table loves to eat them. He didn't specify who, so it sounded very natural. Emily linked her arm with the man's and proudly lifted her chin. Although I'm not sure who you are referring to as someone, but I still want to thank you on her behalf. Daniel was taken aback by my sudden gesture. His face flushed. He seemed a bit at a loss, until he remembered I was still standing next to him. He quickly cleared his throat and said, "You're welcome." A few glasses of wine down, Emily accidentally spilled red wine on herself. Daniel saw this. He immediately took off his coat to help cover her. "Emily, let me take you to the back to change clothes." Although his words sounded a bit awkward. His actions, however, seemed very natural. I was lost in thought. My mother-in-law suddenly threw the plate at me. My thigh was immediately burned. She said angrily, "You think it's funny to see others make a fool of themselves? I just can't stand your gloating expression, thinking about leaving soon." I didn't say much. I went straight to the lounge to deal with things. Just around the corner, I ran into Emily, who still had a hickey on her neck. She looked me up and down. Her gaze was full of disdain. "You went out of your way to help the Daniel family, yet they still don't appreciate it. It's truly chilling." She deliberately unbuttoned her clothes, revealing some suggestive marks. "Your husband is still the same. He can't control himself when he sees me." He immediately pushed me against the wall and kissed me. "Speaking of which, I'm grateful to you for helping me recover my health. However, don't mention just one kidney. Daniel is willing to completely sacrifice you just to make me happy. He would be willing to do that. Oh dear, what meaning does your life have now?" I'm trembling uncontrollably. Tears keep falling down just when I was about to walk away. Emily suddenly gritted her teeth. She tore open her lower back wound and smeared the blood on my hand. I hadn't even come to my senses yet when Daniel hurriedly pushed me away. He ran over to check Emily's injury. Run over to check Emily's injury. At the moment I saw the wound split open. The man's eyes immediately turned red. He stared at me intently. He shouted angrily, "Lily, you're really heartless." I stared at my blood-stained hands. I understood that no matter how I explained, it wouldn't help. I could only say with a glimmer of hope, "Do you really not understand me?" "How could I? I haven't finished speaking." Emily said weakly, "Don't blame Sister Lily. It was my fault for leaving you back then. She only did what she had to do." The more guilty she felt, the more Daniel's heart ached. He looked at me sternly and said, "Emily has endured so much hardship. Now she has finally recovered. How could you want to harm her? What exactly are you planning? But how did Emily actually recover? He knows best in his heart. Did she really suffer so much? Has she really suffered so much? Should my kidney be taken out by him at will? Is it a gift for someone he likes?" My inner grievances finally couldn't be held back. I stared into his eyes and asked, "Then tell me, why did I suddenly have a car accident and I am perfectly fine all over? Only my lower back has a cut." A hint of discomfort flashed in Daniel's eyes, but he quickly returned to calm. "Then you can only blame your bad luck," he said coldly. There was not a trace of pity in his eyes. "Daniel, you really showed me what it means to be heartless and ungrateful." I grabbed the knife on the table. He suddenly thrusts at his own stomach. Daniel immediately stood up. He looked at me in shock. "Are you crazy?" "Lily, I'm not even sure. He really cares about me. Or is he more worried about Emily not being able to raise the child?" Before he could think of an answer, Emily gently tugged at his pant leg. Daniel frowned. He immediately picked her up. He walked away without looking back. "I'm still bleeding. I can only quietly wait for a passing waiter. Please ask him to call an ambulance for me." We arrived at the hospital. The doctor told me the baby couldn't be saved. Actually, I didn't want to have Daniel's child either. Before the doctor gave me the anesthesia, he carefully reminded me, "As planned, I will put you in a state of suspended animation on the operating table. After the surgery, someone will come to take you away. We will also cooperate fully. Get a good night's sleep." Just after he finished speaking, the anesthesia began to take effect. I immediately fell into a deep sleep. On the other side, Daniel helped Emily rebandage her wound, while Emily was still unconscious. He went to the hallway to message Lily. "I might have spoken a bit too harshly earlier, but I care about her because I'm worried you'll get into trouble. Fortunately, Emily is fine now." "Lily, what is the baby's condition now? Which hospital are you at?" I replied immediately. "I can get there right away." But after the message was sent, it seemed to sink like a stone in the sea. There was no response at all. Just as Daniel was about to make a call, a gynecologist walked over. With a heavy expression, they said, "Miss Lily has lost too much blood. The child could not be saved. She also could not pull through. She passed away on the operating table. In an instant, Daniel's face turned pale. At this moment, executives from the Daniel family group rushed over, breathless. Something happened. Daniel. Lily's side has withdrawn investment as soon as the words were spoken. The phone in Daniel's hand fell to the ground with a thud. In an instant, he felt dizzy. In shock, he instinctively took a few steps back. Then came two pieces of news. Two messages followed closely. It made him instinctively grab the doctor. His throat tightened. What did you say, Lily? Lily is dead. This is absolutely impossible. The doctor sighed. He took out the death certificate and handed it to him. He explained, "We did everything we could, but we were truly powerless." Miss Lily was already in critical condition when she was brought in. If only she had been brought in sooner. Daniel carefully looked at the death certificate. It seemed to have words he couldn't understand. He read it over several times. He could not accept it. The person who was just in front of him, how could she suddenly be dead? His ears buzzed. His mind was in chaos. After a while, he trembled as he stepped forward. He grabbed the doctor. He asked with a trembling voice, "What about the body? We must find Lily, no matter if she is dead or alive. Where is Lily's body?" The doctor adjusted his glasses. He spoke with a slightly troubled tone. "Miss Lily's father wants to handle the aftermath personally. You can go directly to see him." After saying that, he turned and left. Daniel, looking anxious, was about to leave. The executive standing nearby quickly called out to him, "Daniel, you need to go back to the company and check. Right now, everyone in the group is extremely busy. The funding chain has suddenly broken. We don't know if it's related to your father-in-law." Daniel turned his head. He shouted loudly, "What time is it now? You're still talking to me about company matters." He calmed down, thought for a moment. He said, "Let's talk when I come back." Then he quickly drove to Lily's house. He walked into the villa. The people at Lily's home all looked very sorrowful. Old Mr. Lily sat angrily in the living room. Daniel cautiously walked over. After a long time, he finally mustered the courage to ask, "Lily, she really did." Lily's grandfather lifted his eyelids. He said coldly, "Is it true or false? Don't you know in your heart? What grievances has my precious daughter suffered in your home? Do you think this old man doesn't know? You should leave my house immediately. From now on, our families will no longer have any dealings." Daniel was so scared that he immediately knelt down. He lay on the old man's leg. He pleaded, "Please let me see Lily one more time. I truly can't bear to see her leave. As long as I can see her, you can punish me however you want." The old man smiled bitterly. He handed over the photos Lily had sent him on his phone. "Take a look for yourself. All these years, how have you treated Lily? For Emily, you have harmed my daughter so badly. You even took one of her kidneys. How can you still have the face to see her one last time?" Daniel stared closely at the phone screen. It displayed his chat history with Emily. He suddenly felt extremely desperate. He realized Lily actually knew everything a long time ago. He knows Daniel has never forgotten Emily, and he knows he donated her kidney to Emily. No wonder his wife, who used to be so affectionate, has become so distant these past few days. Daniel sat directly on the ground, staring blankly ahead. In fact, he never thought about leaving Lily. This 5 years of married life made him gradually develop feelings for her, but the change of events started when Emily came to find him crying. The woman looked extremely tired. She was so thin she looked unrecognizable, even though he had said some harsh words to Emily before. Swore he would never save her again. But how could he bear to watch her die? In desperation, he could only find a way to transplant Lily's kidney to her, to save her life, because Emily is the beloved one he can never have. However, this could have happened silently and never be mentioned again. Daniel was completely stunned. Lily actually knew everything. Old man Lily looked at his pretentious expression. He was extremely angry. He immediately had someone escort him out. Daniel knelt down again. With tears streaming down his face, he asked, "Dad, what about the Daniel family group? That was something Lily and I worked hard for together. I can't just watch it collapse again." Old man Lily recalled Lily's instructions. He was not swayed in the slightest. "You didn't cherish her when she was here. Now, what are you pretending to be kind for? My daughter has already sacrificed herself. Do you think I would still be kind enough to help you?" The old man didn't want to listen any longer. He turned around and walked upstairs directly. He left one sentence, "Show him out." After Daniel was kicked out of the villa, he stood there in a daze. He looked like he had lost his soul. At that moment, the sky suddenly turned gloomy. The dark clouds were hanging very low. Then heavy rain poured down. The man didn't take cover from the rain. Instead, he lay directly on the ground, letting the rain drench him. At this moment, his phone rang. Daniel. The company really went bankrupt. No surprise there. The man replied softly. Then he hung up the phone. After a while, Daniel finally stood up, braving the rain to go to Lily's grave. He walked along the road, deliberately buying Lily's favorite snacks, and brought a bouquet of jasmine flowers. When he saw Lily's name engraved on the tombstone, Daniel could no longer control himself. He knelt in the heavy rain and cried bitterly. He understood in his heart, if only he had taken Lily to the hospital sooner. Perhaps this outcome could have been avoided. Lily, my husband is still here. But Lily could no longer respond to him. All that remains is the sound of rain. Only his cries are left. Daniel stayed at the cemetery until evening. Then he went to the hospital as if he had lost his soul. He understands. He will definitely have a high fever. After the doctor finished giving him the Roman 4 drip, he instinctively tried to support himself on the side, but he touched nothing. If it were before, Lily would have definitely stayed by his side when he was sick. Thinking of this, Daniel awkwardly retracted his hand. He walked alone towards the ward. He had just sat down. Daniel's old lady called, "Son, did Lily really pass away? She has already passed away. There is no way to turn back. Then you might as well marry Emily. You two are truly a match made in heaven." Daniel slowly closed his eyes. He didn't want to hear anymore. "Mom, you're going too far. Lily just left." Daniel didn't even wait for Daniel's old lady to react. He continued speaking. "There's one more thing I forgot to tell you. The company went bankrupt again." At this moment, he happened to see Emily standing at the door. The woman was completely astonished. The soup dumpling in her hand fell to the ground. "What?" The company closed down again. Daniel quickly hung up the phone. He walked over to explain. This time might just be a temporary difficulty. There have been similar situations before. We will definitely be able to stand up again. Emily looked like she had placed the wrong bet at the gambling table. Suddenly crying and laughing, her face showed a self-deprecating expression. "I was still thinking about marrying you. I didn't expect you to be this useless." "Daniel, let's just break up." After saying that, Emily walked away with a look of disdain, without looking back. Daniel recalled 5 years ago, when Emily found out about his bankruptcy. She left him just as ruthlessly. But this time it's different. He didn't chase after her again, not only because he saw through Emily's indifference. He also realized something during these 5 years. He truly fell in love with Lily, even though she is no longer here. He couldn't force himself to pursue other women. Daniel sat on the hospital bed, staring at the Roman 4 drip as it fell drop by drop. It seemed like everything had returned to the way it was at the beginning. The company went bankrupt. Emily also left at a critical moment, but this time, Lily would never appear by his side again. Thinking of this, Daniel held his head and cried loudly. His shoulders trembled continuously. He still had a high fever. The board was hurrying him to attend a meeting at the company. This crisis came suddenly, leaving everyone completely unprepared. As the president, Daniel had to hold on and look for investments everywhere, trying to find a way to solve the funding issues. But on the day of Lily's funeral, he still put down his work and rushed over. He just reached the door. The people at Lily's house began to drive him away. Someone accused, "As Lily's husband, not only did you fail to protect her, but you secretly took her kidneys to save others. People like you are truly outrageous. How dare you come to Lily's funeral? Lily would definitely not want to see you again. Just leave. Seeing you brings bad luck." But faced with these taunts, Daniel couldn't say a word. Despite the pressure and criticism from the outside, he still walked into the hall. The man was dressed in a black suit, holding a bouquet of flowers. He stood in front of Lily's portrait. He deeply bowed. Then he placed the bouquet down. "Lily, it's all my fault. We could have lived a happy life as a family of 3. It's all because I wasn't loyal enough. I let down your sincere heart. Lily, I don't expect you to forgive me. I just hope to make amends for my mistakes, to repay everything I owe you." He looked at the faint smile on Lily's face, but he couldn't smile at all. As soon as Lily's grandfather saw him, he immediately ordered him to leave. "Just go. Lily doesn't want to see you. Neither do we, the Lily family. I won't help you save the company either. Just give up." Upon hearing this, Daniel pressed his lips together and pleaded again. "The Daniel family group is the result of my and Lily's hard work. It must not fall. As long as you can save it, I'm willing to give up all my shares and withdraw from the business world." Lily's grandfather thought for a moment and ultimately agreed to his request. Daniel returned to square one, becoming just like an ordinary person, but he knew in his heart there was one last thing he could do for Lily. Daniel decided to turn himself in. He confessed to the police about his illegal act of donating Lily's kidney without permission. The day the police took him away, the weather was nice. The sky was clear. There wasn't a single cloud. Although he was about to face 3 years in prison, he felt at peace inside. He had no regrets about turning himself in. Daniel looked at the last blue sky. He softly called out Lily's name. I may never be able to atone for my sins in this lifetime, but this is the only thing I can do. I'm sorry, my Lily. The day Daniel was sent to prison, I was curled up in bed eating ice cream. We've been married for 5 years. I know him too well. He has always believed that good and evil will be rewarded. Even if I didn't report it, he would still turn himself in. I saw those heartbreaking images captured by the paparazzi. Yet, I felt a sense of relief inside. The so-called atonement he made, in my view, it was hardly worth mentioning. My dad told me, Daniel has given up all his shares in the Daniel family group. This really surprised me. Looking back to when the group first went bankrupt, he would rather sacrifice his own happiness and choose to marry me. But now, he can so easily let it go, handing over his years of effort to someone else. No matter what, the outcome I initially wanted has been achieved. After leaving Daniel, I should also start my life anew after the surgery. Someone sent me directly to the UK to recuperate. When I opened my eyes, I saw my ex, Aaron, sitting by my bedside. No need to guess. It was definitely arranged by my dad in his eyes. Aaron has always been his preferred son-in-law candidate. I've taken care of you for so many days. Miss Lily, you don't think this was for nothing, do you? I threw out a card, turned around and lay down. That's all I have right now. You should go ask my dad. I originally planned to close my eyes and sleep. Unexpectedly, a sudden warm breath came to my ear. All right, I'll go ask Dad. My face suddenly turned red. By the time I came to my senses, I wanted to turn around and reason with him. Aaron was already gone. Looking back, I met him while studying in the UK. We once had a complicated relationship, but when I heard that Daniel was in trouble back home, I rushed back to the country immediately. And just like that, I left him behind. Speaking of which, I feel a bit sorry for him. I didn't expect that after all these years. He still kept in touch with my dad. During those 3 years in the UK, Aaron was always by my side. I started my entrepreneurial journey. He silently supported me from behind, helping me achieve my college dream. 3 years have passed. I have completely freed myself from the shadows of the past. The company is about to go public now. Aaron specially brought me back to the country. He wanted to personally share this good news with my dad. I just said that Aaron is quite a good person. He has helped you a lot, right? When are you two planning to get married? Aaron and I exchanged glances. We were silent for quite a while. In the end, he finally spoke up. I'm not in a hurry. We'll talk about it once Lily's company stabilizes. Actually, what we are really worried about is, legally, Aaron and I are still married. Although the future is uncertain, we have decided to focus on our careers first. On the day the company goes public, Aaron rented the city's largest screen. It continuously broadcasted the news of the listing. He proudly asked, so, isn't this quite a spectacle? Seeing his proud expression, I reached out and tugged at his tie. I said, you don't expect a reward, do you? As soon as Aaron finished speaking, his kiss came down swiftly. It blocked my mouth. I hadn't reacted yet. Then I heard an excited voice from a man not far away. The person on the big screen is my wife. My wife, Lily, is still alive. She really isn't dead. We looked in the direction of the voice. There was a wrinkled suit man with a bearded face. He was pointing at my photo on the big screen. He looked particularly excited. My wife, Lily, is actually still alive. She really isn't dead. The man kept repeating this sentence, but everyone thought he was crazy. Only I recognized him. He is Daniel, just released from prison. I came back to my senses. I quickly pulled Aaron into the press conference. He noticed my strange expression. He softly comforted me. Lily, after all, you lived together for 5 years. There's no need to hold back your emotions, I shrugged. Go ahead. Actually, I don't feel anything special. I just didn't expect to see you again. Let's talk. I really don't want him to know that I'm still alive. Daniel has always been a stubborn person. If he finds out that I'm still alive, he will definitely try every way to find me, but I don't want to have any contact with him anymore. I've adjusted my emotions. The press conference started smoothly, but halfway through, Daniel suddenly barged in. He looked completely out of place in the atmosphere of the press conference. The security guard noticed his poor condition and wanted to kick him out. He excitedly shouted at me, "Lily, I'm Daniel. I'm your husband. Don't you remember me?" I was wearing a beautifully tailored gown, standing on the stage. We are already in different worlds. I linked my arm with Aaron's. I smiled politely. "Sorry, I don't know you." Daniel heard this sentence. The originally hopeful gaze suddenly dimmed. This is for him. It's like being splashed with a bucket of cold water. "Lily, how could you not recognize me? I'm your husband who lived with you for 5 years. If he were my husband, how could he do something to hurt me? He is no longer worth it." The reporters present all pointed their cameras at Daniel. They began to ask questions incessantly, but he completely ignored them. His eyes were fixed on me. "Lily, as long as you acknowledge me, I'll do anything you want." I still smiled in response. "I'm sorry, sir. I really don't know you. Please do not disrupt our press conference." After saying that, I immediately called security. They dragged him out directly. The scene quickly quieted down, but the expelled Daniel kept banging on the window, shouting loudly, "But we no longer need to meet. The company is officially listed." I originally planned to go back directly to the headquarters in the UK, but Aaron reminded me, "Since you're back, you need to sort things out with Daniel. Otherwise, we won't be able to handle our wedding." He makes a good point. It's time to put an end to this. I haven't had the chance to arrange it yet. Daniel came to me on his own. "Miss Lily, Mr. Daniel has been standing in the sun for several hours. I'll draw the curtains." I looked down at Daniel. This time he made a special effort to tidy up, but the fatigue in his eyes is still hard to hide. I said calmly, "Please tell him for me, if he is ready to go through the divorce procedures with me, then I will see him. If he has anything else to say, let him say it. I don't want to listen." After the nanny received the message, she went downstairs to convey it for me. After Daniel heard what the nanny said, suddenly looked up. Our eyes met. In that moment, it felt as if time stood still. He stood helplessly downstairs. He mouthed to me, "I agree to the divorce." I pulled the curtains, quickly changed into another outfit and went downstairs. It has been 3 years. This is the first time I've stood face to face with Daniel. His eyes were red and swollen. He looked very tired, seeing me. The man was stunned for a moment, then he said, "Lily, are we really going to end it like this?" I calmly said, "It should have ended a long time ago. We just need to pick up the divorce certificate. I just made an appointment. Let's hurry up and go." After saying that, I sat in the driver's seat, waiting for him to get in the car. On the way to the Civil Affairs Bureau, he grasped every moment to speak. His tears never stopped. "It was my mistake 3 years ago. I also understand that I no longer have the right to talk to you, but I still can't let go of you. I can only watch our 5-year marriage come to an end." Does he also know about our 5-year marriage? But it was precisely him who brought us to this point today. He personally destroyed the happy life I worked hard for over 5 years. Therefore, he cannot cry in front of me. I continued to drive. I unconsciously tightened my grip on the steering wheel. "This is your own choice. Don't act as if you're so innocent. Whether it's imprisonment or bankruptcy, you are not the victim in this situation." Daniel leaned back, wearily nodded. "You are right. This is all self-inflicted." After a while, he cautiously asked, "Lily, can you give me some time? Let me think about the divorce properly." The air suddenly became heavy. I didn't say anything. I understand that the longer it drags on, the more variables there will be over the years. I have always been trapped in Daniel's scheme. It's hard to break free. Now, the only way is to handle it decisively. No more dragging it out. On the way, Daniel found various excuses to delay, but I pretended not to hear. The car drove faster and faster. We finally arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau. I submitted the divorce application. Since we had already been separated for a while, the divorce process went relatively smoothly. The staff patiently tried to persuade me for a long time. I couldn't take it in at all. I just signed my name directly. But when it was Daniel's turn, he refused to sign. I sat on the bench waiting for him, until Aaron came to find me. The moment I saw Aaron, Daniel's brow twitched slightly. "He hasn't spoken yet." I spoke up first. "His name is Aaron. He is my fiancé. So I need you to sign quickly. Then we can get married." After I finished this sentence, Daniel's tears fell like beads from a broken string. Besides feeling reluctant, I was also very surprised. He seemed to think I wouldn't fall for anyone else, as if he was convinced he was my only one. All these years, he always felt I couldn't live without him, so he felt safe keeping me by his side. The atmosphere between the three of us became a bit tense. After a while, Daniel finally turned around and sat down. He signed the document. When I received the divorce certificate, I didn't feel complicated inside. I only felt relieved. This marriage shouldn't have started in the first place. Now it has finally ended. At the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, when we parted ways, Daniel quietly called out to me from behind, "Lily, can we still be friends in the future?" I interrupted him directly. "Today is our last meeting. From now on, we will go our separate ways." I took the car keys out of my bag and handed them to him. "By the way, you can take this car. If I remember correctly, you bought it back then. Now I don't want it anymore." After saying this, I grabbed Aaron's arm and got into his car. I saw in the rearview mirror, Daniel stood there like a statue, motionless. He walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Compared to those who were paired up, he looked especially out of place. The cold wind blew fiercely, making him look both haggard and disheveled. But who can we blame for this? He was never loyal to marriage from the start. I'm sitting in the passenger seat, watching the scenery rush by outside the window. My mood has lightened a lot. I said, "Aaron, take me to eat hot pot later. Otherwise, I won't be able to have it once I get to the UK." Aaron gently held my hand. He tenderly brushed my nose and said with a smile, "All right, all right, all right. I'll do whatever you say." He cleared his throat and said with a hint of mischief, "To be fair, you decide what we have for dinner, but for late-night snacks, you have to listen to me." Late-night snacks, oh, that's the late-night snack I'm talking about.